Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2044. The topic is mindset, and the title is Short Answer Interview. A local college student at Winthrop University, recently asked me to do a Zoom interview with them, which I thought was really fun. So that was pretty cool. And the premise was they are wanting to get into personal training as a possible career. They're actually already doing it part-time as some money like on the side through college, which is actually what I did. And they know a friend of theirs is a client of mine. So it worked out well. They wanted to do a little bit of an interview, and they asked really good questions. They asked questions that kind of struck me as more elevated than what I've been asked before in those types of interviews. So I thought it'd be fun to share their questions and then kind of a quick overview of what my answers were. For whatever it's worth, hopefully there's some good stuff out of here. I just thought it was a good discussion, and I wanted to share it through the podcast. Since the student and I did it on Zoom, it was on a Zoom that they had set up. I wasn't able to record it. So I thought it might be fun just to come back and discuss these questions and topics through the podcast. So the first question they asked was, what books have had the greatest significance in your life? And what would be your top 3 recommended books? Now, I was actually never much of a reader when I was in high school. I read a lot when I was like a child. Like I read all the Goosebumps books. And then as I got into high school, I didn't read as much. I tend to think faster than I can read. So I have a hard time paying attention while I'm reading. I tend to actually get bored while I read. So I can't read as fast as I would think. So I start to get sidetracked. But I did end up getting into audiobooks as an adult, and more so, especially once I opened Brutal Iron Gym. I started listening to a lot of audiobooks about business because I wanted to be better at that. And then self-help, because as an entrepreneur, I am usually the problem. If the business isn't growing any better, it's usually because of me. So I want to always be working on myself and then work on the business. And then what also helps is as I improve how to manage my own life, I can then better help clients do the same with issues that they're having if I had same exposure to that kind of issue. So it's been helpful for me. It's been helpful for others. It's been helpful for the business. It's been very helpful overall. One of my best friends actually reads a lot and has very good insight into life and is a great human being in all areas of his life. And I admire that a lot about him. And one of the ways that he became that way was through reading. So that was also an extra motivator for me to make sure I got into books and tried to expose myself to, different ways of thinking, different insights, and see if I could start to implement that into my life. So the 3 recommended books that I've listened to actually through Audible. Number 1 is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Blank, rhymes with duck, by Mark Manson. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Crap. What's interesting about that book was through the years, and I'll expand on this a little bit later, but through the years, I had developed a mindset that I felt was very well confirmed in that book. The first chapter, they say the F word way too many times, beyond what's necessary, but I think that possibly could have been intentional to desensitize you to that word. So that way the entire rest of the book, that word isn't the focus, it's the actual lessons. I think that word was, good clickbait, kind of caught people's attention in the title. Then they had to desensitize you in the first chapter and then get into the good stuff from there on out. So the first chapter I feel like swore way too much, but the rest of the book is really good. But what I liked about it was you have to pick and choose what you give your energy to in life and make sure that you're focused on what you can control. That is huge. And focused on what will provide the greatest long-term positive impact. There are a lot of things in life that happen that you don't need to care. You don't need to give any attention to it let it be what it is. Stay focused on your path. Stay focused on what's important to you and long-term beneficial. Don't get lost in the little piddly middle crap of life. So that's why I really like that book. And then the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink was another book that confirmed and put better terminology to a development of life lesson that I really liked. It started with my mom and dad. They were tough love type parenting, all the love you could ever get from human beings. Absolutely. But they were also tough, meaning if they asked you to do something, you didn't do it. They didn't give a shit why you didn't do it. It didn't get done, so now there's consequences. And it didn't mean we were always punished. Sometimes the punishment was seeing them have to clean up from something I did or didn't do correctly, and then just seeing that it put a negative consequence into their life, not mine. And oh, that hurt even worse because it was like, I don't mind paying for my own mistakes, but I want somebody else to pay for my mistakes. So that was very helpful for me to learn. And Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink kind of reinforced that everything that happens to you in life isn't your fault. But you're responsible to address it and make change. So fault and responsibility are not connected. It might not be your fault, but if you want it to have a better outcome than what it's having right now, it is your responsibility to change that. So extreme ownership is you got to own your life. If you want change, you have to change. You have to create and make that change. And that's been extremely helpful for me in life, and that's helped just enormous amount of aspects in my life with those two things. First one is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Crap by Mark Manson. You have to pick and choose what you give your energy to, make sure it's stuff you can control, make sure it's stuff that's long-term, positively impactful. And then extreme ownership, even if it's not your fault, if it's your life, it's your responsibility, you got to make changes. And then the third one, I hesitate to say it because it's so cliche, but I would never hesitate to say it because I think it's a good lesson, is the Bible. And I haven't read the whole thing. There's a lot of sections where it's like so-and-so, son of so-and-so for like chapters and chapters. And I don't always understand exactly what's in there. But I have read kind of the highlights. And I listen to a lot of sermons almost daily. And what I like about that is somebody who is more educated in kind of theology and whatnot can then take those lessons and kind of break them down and apply them to everyday life. So I don't have to try to do that while I'm reading that book. But I have read a good portion of it. And I listen to a lot of sermons. And I guide my actions based on the lessons and the advice contained within the Bible. I actually went to a dinner with an atheist friend once, and we just they had some questions, and I said, I'd rather not answer this like, on the gym floor, because, religion and politics and gym, good gosh, who needs that? But we decided to go to dinner, and they were asking questions, and one of the questions they asked was, what if there's no God? Here you are following this book, following this imaginary person, doing everything they're telling you to do. What happens if you get to the end of your life and you find out that there's no God? And what was interesting, I'd never really been asked that question where the person actually wanted to hear my answer. It was, usually people say what they want to say to try to prove their point. He was actually asking me just to genuinely hear the answer. And what I ended up saying is I would be okay with that in the sense of I'm living my life guided by the principles in the Bible. And it's made a good life. Like I've enjoyed my life. I'm very grateful, very blessed, all the good terminology. My life is amazing. It's worked out well. Now it has absolutely had some downsides and some challenges, but overall it's worked out well. And I think guiding my life through the lessons in the Bible, the viewpoint of the Bible, has been very helpful. I think it's led to a good life. So even if I got to the end and found out, there was no God and I didn't need to be following the Bible, I wouldn't do it any different. I've actually still found it to be extremely helpful, and it's made me into a person I feel like I can respect and a person I like when I look in the mirror. And it's led to a life that I like when I look at it in, past, present, and hopefully what I think is coming in the future. But those are my 3 recommended books. If you're not a Christian, if you're not big into religion, you can definitely substitute that 3rd one and maybe read some things about just viewpoints of life, philosophy of life. Stoicism, for example, is one that kind of pairs well with extreme ownership, and that can have a lot of kind of good viewpoints that can be helpful for like an overall arching theme of life. So those are my 3 recommended books. The next question was, how has failure helped you succeed? Do you have specific failures that have helped you the most? And I thought that was a wonderful question, is how has failure helped you succeed? Immensely. Failure has taught me to work harder. Failure has taught me to work smarter. Failure has taught me to be more disciplined. It's helped me develop the skill set and mindset that was necessary to achieve the next success. So whatever has been success in my life, to whatever degree, whatever things I've done well at, I've only been able to do that because of all of the things that didn't go well before that. All of the lessons learned, all of the struggles, just the strengthening process of repeated failure is what leads to success. So failure is a natural progression towards success. It's part of the process of success. It's not that you have failure versus success. They're separate outcomes. Failure is what happens until you succeed. And then once you succeed, you're going to try to do something bigger, and then you're going to fail until you achieve that bigger thing. Then you're going to want another bigger thing, and you're going to fail until you achieve that bigger thing. So failure is a part of the process of success, not that it's a competitive outcome of success. The most helpful failure has been who I was versus who I wanted to be. And what I mean by that was, as I was growing up, I was becoming more and more aware of ways in which I wasn't what my mind had defined as perfect. So I grew up skinny fat. I mean, my gosh, I was 165 pounds at 6 foot tall, but you could grab fat rolls around my waist. I was very, very thin looking in a t-shirt. Very thin, no muscle anywhere, but I also had no veins. I had no muscle definition, no veins, because I was actually a high percentage of body fat, even at just 165 pounds. Like, I weigh 290 now, and I have a lower body fat percentage than I did at 165. So I was very skinny fat. So I grew up knowing exactly what skinny felt like and what fat felt like at the same time. I grew up also slightly cross-eyed. I'm blind in my left eye, and that was more pronounced when I was younger. I have a higher pitched voice than most men do, and that was due to a birth defect. I have a Pierre-Robin syndrome, so my throat and jaw didn't develop correctly, and I had a lot of surgeries and stuff when I was younger, so it ended up making my voice kind of this, like a middle range. I've actually been to a speech pathologist who told me that, like, scientifically definition, that my voice is in between the deepness of what a male versus female should be. So I was like, damn. It's one thing to like think of it being true, but then just be told by the expert that, yep, yeah, that's true. It's like, oh, that was painful. So there were just a lot of things that I grew up hating about myself, or I felt like ashamed of or insecure because of those things. So the failure of not being made perfect, that has actually been the most helpful thing in my life. How that developed as helpful was through personal training. I've worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So I have over 3,000 client history, well over that. I stopped counting. I probably should go back through and recount that. But well over 3,000 people I've worked with as clients. Over 500 students I've taught at the university level. And in none of those people, 3,500 people, plus people you talk to in regular life that ask advice, no one is perfect. Zero. Not any successful business person that I've read their books or watched like interviews or listened to interviews to, none of them have been perfect. Literally, no one I have ever met or learned of has been perfect. But for many of them, they still did cool shit. Like they still accomplished big, amazing, wonderful things, even though they're not perfect. So I learned that I basically have to accept what I can't change what I can, and then throughout that process, work on becoming my best self, either in spite of what was given to me to start with, and or embracing what was given to me to start with, and how it's helped me build a better future. So for example, through my struggles, I've learned more empathy and compassion. I've learned how to push through hard things. I've been fat and lost weight. I've been skinny and built muscle. I've been both mentally and physically weak and have had to do a lot of work to correct both of those. I've been through a lot of things. I've been a lot of things I didn't want to be. I've been through a lot of things I didn't want to have to go through. But through overcoming those things, through experiencing those things, it's strengthened who I am. It's allowed me to achieve even greater things than I would have without those struggles. And I've been able to help other people. That's one of the biggest blessings in any struggle I ever face is how can I now use this to help other people? And there's always been an answer. There's always been a way for any struggle I've had that I've been able to help other people through that same struggle. And that is an incredibly rewarding, very honoring position to be in life. So that has been the failure that has had the greatest impact in my life is learning I wasn't perfect, but learning that that's okay. And you just gotta be your best self in spite of it and, strengthened by it. The next question was, when you're feeling overwhelmed or depressed, what do you do to bring yourself out of that feeling? For me, I ask God for help. I control what I can. I attack the biggest, most important things as aggressively and as quickly as I can. I vocalize and ask for help from others around me, and I trust in people and priority lists that I've already made. So for me, I rank the people in my life. This is, I'm sure it's not, PC to say this, but I rank the people in my life. It's God first, me and Meredith second, everybody else, I apologize. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But the list goes from there. So ranking my people list and then ranking what's important to me in regards to the actions and things I do per day. I know my priority list. So when I have things that are conflicting with each other, and it seems like, what do I do? I have this or this. I just follow my priority list. The answer's already answered for me. So that reduces my stress an enormous amount. So I focus on things that are most important, and I try to focus on them in the most efficient manner possible. And then I trust that the rest will work out. Give it to God and let go. And just recognize, okay, as I work my way down my priority list, when I get to something, if it has totally, shit the bed, I'm going to have to deal with it the way it is. But chasing that thing and losing things that are of higher importance isn't beneficial long term. It might feel urgent, but it isn't important. So I have to focus on my priority list and stay true to that list. And then I just get to things whenever I can get to things, and whatever state they're in when I get to them is whatever state they're in when I get to them. You just got to work back up. Next question. What is the best or most impactful investment you've ever made? Myself. So anything and everything I've done to make myself a better person has paid infinite dividends. And absolutely without any doubts, anytime I pull back on my own self-care, my own investment, life starts to unravel a bit. So investing in myself, believing in myself, testing myself, the more energy I put into developing my mental and physical strengths, the better my life gets and the better the life of the people around me gets. What purchase of $100 or less has had the greatest impact in your life? Headphones is, kind of a quick, dorky kind of answer, but it was headphones because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I listen to a lot of interviews, through podcast or YouTube. I listen to things almost all day. I do take time to have some silence every now and then, but I'm invigorated, excited, motivated by information. So I have headphones in my office, I have headphones in the car, I have headphones in my work bag, I have headphones in my gym bag, I have headphones everywhere. And it's just extremely helpful, extremely impactful. So along with that, I didn't answer this in the original interview, but audiobooks. So just Audible. Audible itself, I think, is $15 a month. And that has been enormous, absolutely enormous. So for under $100, you can get headphones and an Audible subscription, and you can absolutely change your life. The final question was, what advice would you give a younger trainer just starting out? Okay, number one, I'm going to give 5 pieces of advice. Number one is prioritize yourself. Your nutrition, your training, and your sleep. You are your first client. You are the walking embodiment of what you know and what others will think that you know. You absolutely have to look like, act like, be like, do like, talk like. You have to walk the walk in what you want your clients to be. Lead by example. You shouldn't say anything, and people should know what you're about. If you don't have words, if you can't speak, people should have no doubt what you're about, just by watching how you live your life, by seeing what you do on a regular basis. So invest in yourself, prioritize yourself, take care of yourself. That's tip number one. Tip number two is schedule time to learn. Do not waste your downtime. Do not waste your downtime. When I'm eating, I will still watch videos on training nutrition. When I'm doing the laundry, cutting grass, cooking, doing dishes, cleaning the house, whatever it is, I'm always trying to take in information that can help. Sometimes it's training nutrition. Sometimes I'll listen to books on sleep. I'll listen to books on communication, books on marketing, on just digital process like social media stuff. Just something that I feel like is useful or helpful or can help me in some way. I digest a lot of information, but a lot of the young trainers I work with, a lot of clients when they're business clients and they're trying to develop themselves, they don't always utilize that downtime very well. They spend it doing, kind of can't think of the word right now, but like doom scrolling on social media and just wasting time. They'll watch a whole series of Bridgerton, and it's like you can disconnect 100% for sure in a scheduled way. But if you're watching, 10 plus hours of TV a week, I would urge you to reduce that. I would urge you to bring that down and try to invest that time into stuff that's more applicable to your life rather than miscellaneous things. There is a degree of, I don't know what the proper terminology would be, but like disconnection and kind of pulling out of this always on the go, always having to learn. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be purposeful. Everything has to be useful. You have to get out of that mindset from time to time and just go laugh. Just go do something fun. Like take some time to disconnect. But be mindful with that time. Be scheduled with that time. Don't let that time grow larger than it really needs to be. Third tip, practice on yourself and others. So apply what you're learning. Experiment with your workouts. Experiment with clients' workouts. If you don't have clients, offer to train people for free. Just freaking get some experience. You have to try everything on yourself so you know firsthand what it feels like, and then try it on as many people as are willing to be your, your practice dummy. Try as many as you can. Experiment with things. Like offer to write somebody a workout and be like, dude, can you do this workout for me and just tell me what you think? Just throw it out there. Just, try it. If you expose yourself to other people's experiences of the information that you're trying to digest, you're going to learn infinitely more than if you just do it just yourself. But you do have to do it yourself too, okay? So practice on yourself and on others. Tip number 4 is learn social media marketing. It's unavoidable. If you want to be good in business, in today's current digital age. I don't know if all that terminology sounds weird, but yeah, you have to know how to run social media. I am not saying that I run it perfectly, by no means. I don't do before and after photos of clients. I don't do a lot of clickbaity stuff. I could spend more time, editing videos and doing things like that. It's something I'm improving in my own way, and I'm finding my voice for it. So I would encourage you to find your voice, but make sure you work on that. Some of the young trainers I work with, they just don't post things very often. They might go 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks and they'll post just a photo in the gym. And it's like, hard at work, head down, hard at work. Let your work do your talking. Well, you're an advertisement for yourself. Like, if you want to grow your business, you also have to talk. So develop your voice. Don't be afraid of it. Try some stuff. Experiment a little bit. If it goes to shit, just delete the post later. So there are ways to just practice, get exposure, see how it goes, and learn. But don't be afraid to go through that process. You do have to develop a social media presence so people know about you. And then tip number 5 is to develop passive income. You cannot trade time for money as a one-on-one, like a 1-to-1 ratio trade. You will run out of time. I have ran into this issue a gajillion times. When I first opened the gym, I was training people for $20 an hour just to grow the business. And I was trading 50 plus hours a week of 1-to-1 face-to-face time. Then I was still running people's nutrition programs, training programs, cleaning the gym, doing financial paperwork, trying to grow the gym by going and getting equipment. I was trying to do my own workouts, do my own nutrition, try to sleep every now and then, every couple of days. But I was very overwhelmed. And then as I started to realize, holy shit, I'm running out of time. I literally can't trade any more time. I started charging more for my time, and that worked, but not I went from $20 an hour to $30 an hour. No clients left, which was good, but also it freed up no time. So I went from $30 an hour to $40 an hour, and I think 3 people left, and I was like, holy crap, I'm still crushed time-wise. So over time, I've had to learn to develop different levels of services and work on developing passive income projects. So that way you can have an initial investment of time, but then you can earn multiples off of that time over time. So I would definitely encourage you to develop some passive income. And that could be, pre-written programs, that could be virtual classes, virtual courses. There are a lot of methods and ways in which people do it, but that would be something that I would encourage. So those are the top 5 pieces of advice to younger trainer. Prioritize yourself, schedule time to learn, practice on yourself and others, what you're learning, learn social media marketing, and then develop a passive income project of some kind or projects. Make sure that your services aren't only, I give you $60 and you give me money back. 60 minutes and you give me money back. You can't just trade minutes for money. There's got to be something that you're doing that's an initial investment of time, but can earn multiples off of that time over time. So I thought that interview was really fun. I really enjoyed it. So thank you to the student who did that with me. That was super cool. I sincerely appreciate and am honored by the fact that you gave a crap what my thoughts were to any of these questions. So I really enjoyed it. If anybody has any questions, or if you ever want to do an interview or anything like that, just let me know. I really enjoy it. I love the opportunity to share anything I've learned, whether it's been, learning it from doing it well or learning it from not doing it well. But I appreciate the opportunity. Love when people reach out. So if you have any questions, just reach out on the website, www.brittleiron.gym.com. You can go to the bottom of the homepage. There's a contact form. Send me any message you want anytime. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share the podcast with, the more people the podcast can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on the website. Also, if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brittle Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you.